1241, Europe was seconds from annihilation. The Mongols had already crushed Poland and Hungary. German knights lay scattered like broken chess pieces, and the path to Rome, wide open. Then, without warning, they turned back. But what if they hadn't? What if Genghis Khan's descendants kept riding west and turned Europe into the western edge of a Mongol super-empire? What happens when the Pope flees and the East reigns over the West? Genghis Khan didn't just conquer, he transformed the world. By the early 1200s, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific to the Caspian. No force moved faster, no army hit harder. When Genghis died, his son Ögedei took over, and in 1236, Europe became the next target. By 1241, the Mongols had stormed through Russia, smashed Poland, and annihilated Hungary. Medieval Europe, fragmented and arrogant, never saw them coming. Castles burned. Knights died on horseback, arrows in their throats. Entire cities vanished in days. But just when Europe braced for extinction, Ögedei Khan died. Mongol generals halted the campaign and returned to Karakorum to decide the next ruler. That single death, it saved Europe. They had already crushed knights, castles, and kingdoms. No one left in Europe could stop them. But what if Ögedei Khan didn't die, or what if his death was ignored? The Mongol horde wouldn't have turned east, they would have turned west. The Danube, crossed in days. Vienna, razed. Paris, surrounded. Rome, burning incense while the Pope flees by sea. No emperor, no alliance, no miracle. Europe's defenses were fractured, feudal lords arguing while cities collapsed. The Holy Roman Empire, scattered and uncoordinated, falls province by province. Longbowmen, crushed. Knights in steel, slaughtered by horse archers who moved like ghosts. The Mongols didn't siege like Europeans. They broke your walls with thunder, then paid your neighbor to betray you, then rode to the next city before word even spread. By 1243, Europe's heartland is bleeding. Genoa, Venice, Florence, once proud trade hubs, are ash. Only pockets of resistance remain, and one of them is preparing to fight to the death. First to collapse is the Holy Roman Empire. Its patchwork of kingdoms falls like dominoes. No central command, no unity. German princes flee. Cathedrals burn. The imperial crown vanishes into Mongol hands. France resists longer, briefly. Chivalry dies in the mud outside Paris. Crossbows can't match composite bows. And when Mongols breach the Seine, the city erupts in chaos. England watches in horror from across the Channel. They build ships, they pray, but the Mongols know patience. They control the ports of Brittany and Flanders. Soon they'll control the seas. Rome, the heart of Christendom, becomes a ghost city. The Pope escapes to Avignon, or maybe Constantinople. The church fractures. Its power bleeds as fast as its clergy. Trade cities, Florence, Milan, Bruges, are repurposed. Not burned, but occupied. The Mongols turn them into hubs, linking China to the Atlantic. The Silk Road doesn't end in Baghdad anymore. It ends in Bordeaux, and just when it seems Europe has no answer, one last alliance begins to form in the frozen north. The Mongols didn't come to convert. They came to control, but their presence tears Europe's spiritual fabric apart. The Catholic Church, once unquestioned, is humiliated. Its leaders scattered, its authority fractured. Masses still gather, but they whisper now, not about salvation, about survival. Mongol Khans install Persian administrators. Buddhists and Muslims now govern Christian towns. Latin gives way to Mongol script on decrees. And with it, so does the old order. Christianity splinters. Without Rome or a strong papacy, rival sects rise. Some blend Mongol shamanism with Christian rites. Others reject faith altogether. And art, it shifts. From saints and martyrs to conquest and power. Icons once kissed are melted into coins for tribute. The Renaissance is stillborn, its flame never lit. And in this new world, a prince will rise. But not from Europe. The Mongols didn't just conquer, they rewired economies. With Europe under their control, the Silk Road stretches to the Atlantic. Caravans roll through Paris. Mongol merchants settle in Venice. Gold flows east, silk flows west. Feudal lords collapse overnight. Why barter grain when Mongol silver buys everything? The old nobility either kneels or vanishes. Cities like Florence and Bruges lose their spark. Without Catholic dominance, patronage withers, art stagnates. The Renaissance may be never born. But here's the twist. Capitalism might rise sooner. Mongol trade networks are brutal but efficient. Banking booms in conquered cities. Paper money enters Europe 200 years early. Even the political map warps. France becomes a vassal. The Holy Roman Empire fragments beyond repair. Instead of kings, khans rule from stone towers in Prague. Imagine Marco Polo, born in Lisbon. Imagine Mongol governors debating Chinese tax law in Oxford. Europe's identity isn't just changed, it's overwritten. But even under Mongol rule, Europe doesn't stay silent. In the icy north, whispers stir in the forests of Scandinavia. Norse clans unite, not for conquest, but for survival. They've seen what happens when you kneel, and they refuse. In Spain, Muslim kingdoms like Granada, once battered by Christian crusades, now rise again. But this time, they're not alone. Rebel Catholic monks and Muslim warriors forge unlikely alliances. Cities like Prague, Ghent, and Krakow become hotbeds of revolt. Blacksmiths craft weapons in cellars. Priests deliver sermons in code. Every fire lit in defiance, a spark against the empire. One man, a former Frankish knight turned guerrilla, earns a name the Mongols fear, the Ghost of the Rhine. He strikes supply lines, disappears into the mountains, returns with thunder. But wait, this rebellion almost succeeds. Almost. At the gates of Vienna, thousands rally beneath stolen banners. Their plan? Dismantle the Mongol command center. But betrayal from within turns triumph to massacre. The dream dies in ash. And still, uprisings smolder, because no empire, not even one built by Genghis, rules forever without resistance. The conquest of Europe doesn't just rewrite its borders, it changes the entire world. The age of exploration never happens. With the Mongols controlling every trade route from China to Iberia, there's no need for European ships to seek alternate paths. The Silk Road runs straight through conquered Paris, and Mongol trade fleets dominate the Mediterranean. Columbus, unknown. The Americas, possibly discovered by Mongol explorers sailing west from unified Eurasian ports. Centuries before 1492. But instead of Spanish galleons, it's Mongol junk hybrids that land on foreign shores. Gunpowder spreads faster. The Chinese already used it. Now the Mongols bring it west. Through war, not trade. European cities fall not to siege towers, but to exploding bombs hurled from trebuchets powered by chemistry. The Renaissance, maybe it flickers, but never ignites. No Florence, no Da Vinci. Art becomes a tool of the Khan's court. Science bends to empire, not curiosity. And what of religion? With Rome burned and the Vatican shattered, the Catholic Church never recovers. No Protestant Reformation, no 30 Years' War. Instead, Christianity fractures under pressure, absorbed, rebranded, or buried. Global empires rise centuries early, but they rise under a banner of horsehair and iron, not sails and parchment. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? A horde from the east conquering castles, kingdoms, and Christendom itself. But the truth, they were terrifyingly close. The Mongols weren't just ruthless, they were organized. They mapped rivers, timed their invasions by harvest cycles. They moved faster than news, and they didn't lose. So why didn't it happen? Some say it was fate, Ogedai's death pulling commanders back to Mongolia. Others say Europe's forests and winters were too dense, too brutal. The Mongol supply chains stretched thin. Their horses built for steppes struggled in the Alps. Disease, language, terrain. Europe had weapons it didn't even know it wielded. But here's the terrifying truth. They weren't stopped. They just turned around. History didn't escape, it was spared. Imagine waking up in a world where the Renaissance never happened, where the printing press never spread, where Galileo never looked through a telescope, where Latin prayers were replaced with Mongol chants in stone cathedrals. This isn't just alternate history. It's a glimpse into how fragile civilization really is. One missed message, one delayed funeral, and the world burns differently. So next time someone says history is set in stone, remind them. Sometimes it turns on a single death. And if Ogedai Khan had lived 1 year longer, you wouldn't be watching this in English. You'd be watching it from a world that never was.